welcome to my YouTube channel, Stephanie's Farmhouse. I'm Stephanie, and today I'm going to show you how to change out this top of this dining room table. It's totally DIY, and I love it. This stuff is right up my alley. So first I'm going to tell you the story behind this table and why it needs to be changed out. So a few years ago, about 4 years ago, we had just moved into our house and we didn't have a dining room table yet for this house. So I told my husband that I invited people over for Thanksgiving, and he was like, okay. He's like, how many people did you invite? And I said, 10. Why? You make it sound weird or something. And he was like, well, where are people gonna eat? And I said, I don't know. So he figured it out. He whipped it together overnight. So the tabletop was a project that we had started, and we had abandoned that project. So we just left it outside, and it got warped in the weather, and it was kind of crazy. But you know, we needed it right away, so he threw it on top of this awesome table, and it's worked great for 4 years. But now it's time to change it out. So I'm going to keep the rest of the work that he did underneath the table. We're just going to change out the top, and like I said, it's totally DIY. This is right up my alley, and I'm going to take you along with me, and it's going to be great. So buckle up. All right, so here we are. We're at the saw. We're going to cut some wood. So with this table, to get the width I wanted, we got 3 2x8s and 2 2x6s, and I'm going to cut them all at 80 inches. So I'm going to measure twice, cut once. All right, got my safety glasses. Going to put in my earplugs, and we're going to rock and roll. Let's do it. Next phase of this awesome DIY dining room tabletop build. All my wood is cut and sanded. Well, not all of it. Actually, I have to cut the end pieces still, but I'm going to do that when it's all together so I know the exact width. So how to join it together. I took this from an Anna White build plan that I was looking at. She's awesome. If you don't know her, you should totally check her out if you love to build. And this is how we're going to do it. So I'm doing pocket holes. And I love my Craig tool. It makes the joinery really nice and tight, clean. It's beautiful. I love it. So here we go. This is how you use it. It's already set for my wood width, and it's so simple. Just like that. Like I said, if you do not have a Craig tool, you should think about getting one if you like to build, just because it's awesome. Today, I'm super excited about this. We are finishing this tabletop. We replaced it, and now I'm gonna do the finish on it, and this is actually my favorite part. I enjoy building, but finishing is my thing. So here we go. I am going to use this stain first. I'm also really excited about the fact that I'm gonna mix 2 stains, and they're gonna give me the exact look that I am going for. So here we go. We're gonna mix this stain first. I'm gonna rag this on. I have my glove on because it's stained and it's gonna get all over my hands. But I'm gonna rag it on because I don't want too much stain. I want just enough to control what it's gonna look like. So I'm gonna do this, and then I'm gonna rub it on the wood just like this. And I'm gonna do the entire tabletop this way. And I'm so excited about it. And then I'm gonna go over it with another color, and I'll show you that when we get to that part after this dries. But this is exactly what I'm doing. This is the Varathane weathered gray look, and I'm so excited about it. So stick around and I'll show you what it looks like. So first off, I want to apologize that this part of the video is going to be pretty dark, but this tabletop needs to get done tonight. So we're going to roll with it, and I'm going to show you the technique, which is the most important part, and the colors that I'm using, and then I'm going to show you the finished product tomorrow when the lighting's better and everything's great. So first off, yesterday I sanded this tabletop to make all the boards even, and then I stained it with the Varathane gray stain that I showed you earlier in the video, and then I ran 220 grit sandpaper over it, and now I'm going to use this Cabot walnut color interior stain, and again I'm going to rag it on, I'm going to rub it in, and then that's going to be that part. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to use painter's tape underneath this table, and I'm going to seal these cracks. I really wanted these V-grooves here to keep the farmhouse look, but I don't want it to catch crumbs and all that kind of stuff that happens on a dining room table. So I'm going to put painter's tape under the table, and I'm going to pour polyacrylic into these cracks, and I'm going to fill them with polyacrylic, and then I'm going to smooth it out, and I'm going to finish the whole tabletop with that. I'm going to show you how that looks tomorrow. And lastly, the table legs. I'm not entirely sure what I'm doing yet here. Just as a test, I used a white stain by Varathane, and I rubbed it down because it's already stained from previously, and so I don't know yet. It depends on how the top turns out, if I'm going to go with that or if I'm going to paint them white and distress them. I'll let you know tomorrow. First off, this is how we're going to do it. I am just going to rub my stain into my board, just like this. And this is how I'm going to do the whole tabletop. And you notice, like, I just blended that in so I don't have any harsh lines. Oh, my son wants to jump in on this video. But this is exactly how I'm going to do this. Okay? And then I'll show you how it looks tomorrow. Okay, so my tabletop is done, and I love it! Oh, I couldn't be happier with how it turned out. So here's what we did. Earlier in the video, you saw that I hand rubbed on the gray stain, and then I ran 220 grit sandpaper over it. Then I hand rubbed on the walnut stain. Something that I encountered, it happens when you stain sometimes. I had the windows open for ventilation, and the breeze started to dry out my stain on the board I was working on, and it started to gum up a little bit. If that happens, you just get a foam brush like this, dip it in a little bit of mineral spirits, and just smooth out that area gently, or else you'll end up pushing the stain around and it can start to look sloppy. So just gently go over it, it'll thin it out, and then it'll look like the rest of your piece. Sometimes if you use a little too much mineral spirits, it will cause your stain to separate and spot up a little bit. Just run your brush over it and smooth that back out, and it'll dry just like the rest of the piece. So keep that in mind if that happens. After it dried, then I ran 220 grit sandpaper over it again, and then I did polyacrylic to protect the table. I've done 3 coats on the tabletop, and I love it. It's a satin finish. Something I chose to do on this table, you may or may not choose, but if you do, I wanted these grooves. I used construction lumber, and so the edges are rounded. If you don't want that, it is a kitchen table. If you don't want that because it'll catch crumbs and whatever else, if you're not going to fill the gaps, you would just put your boards on a table saw or a planer and just take off a few millimeters on each side, and then they'll butt up nice and tight together. I wanted it to look like this because I'm going for a rustic look, so I am going to fill in the gaps with polyacrylic. I've already started. I used painter's tape under the table, and I'm pouring the polyacrylic down in my gaps. This is my widest gap, and so what I'm doing here is, it filled in the other ones beautifully. This one, because it's wider, I don't want the polyacrylic to be thick and cloudy as it dries. So I'm doing the polyacrylic, letting it dry, polyacrylic, letting it dry, and I'm gonna build it up that way it's not cloudy. Okay, so that's the tabletop. I love it. It has a nice gray stain color to it. Now we're gonna move on to the legs. Distressing painting is totally my thing. I love it. So I can't wait to show you this. Okay, the first thing I did, we used special walnut before when we did this table, but I don't want that anymore. So I painted over it with this grayish green color, and now I'm distressing. You can see I already did some of the white. I'm gonna use this dry brush and dip it in my paint just like this, and then I'm gonna tap off a lot of the paint. You can see I've already been working on this table today, but I'm gonna tap it off like this, and then just gently. The one thing with distress painting is that you can, if you go too heavy-handed right away, it's really hard to pull back. You really almost have to paint over it and start over sometimes if it gets really heavy-handed, and that's not what you're going for. So I always start light. You can always build on top of it. So here we go. I'm gonna come around here so you can see better, but just so lightly. I'm gonna do this and just add, see how, and you can build on it as you go, just like this. I'm gonna do this with white and black, and I'm also going to sand the edges with 60 grit sandpaper because I want that distressed look. Okay, so there's that. I'm gonna grab some sandpaper. I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna do there. So the white is on and dry, and so now I'm going to get my 60 grit sandpaper and I'm just gonna run it right down these edges. I am running it where the table would normally wear, which would be on the edges. So just like this. And I'm not pushing very hard because it is a coarse grit sandpaper and I don't want to take too much off. Now we're going to add the black. We did the dry brushing on the white, we did the sanding, and now we're going to add some black. So check it out. I already have it on my brush and it's already dabbed off and ready to go. And so I'm just going to add this just lightly. And it's adding that depth and dimension that I'm looking for on this leg. Can you see how as I'm going over it, I'm building on it because I don't want it to look really harsh. Finished and I love it. I love how it turned out. It's super simple. Anyone could do this. It's an awesome DIY project. So give it a shot. If you liked this video and if you thought it was helpful, please like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one. Have a great night.